it's going to break, because it's more fragile. If you go left and right, it's a little stronger. Again, it just takes common sense. If it happens to be in a base, well, that's a little more work, and it's a little more expensive because it's more time. But you can still put that thing back up upright, and it'll last for another 25 or 50 years. No problem at all. The larger stones takes a little more work and a little more equipment. Question back
Tree
here.
roots.
Tree roots. Let's just talk about trees in particular.
Trees and, yeah, okay.
Trees and cemeteries don't go together. Period. There is nothing wrong with having trees near a cemetery. So many times I want a nice, I'm going to pick on a willow, I'm going to pick on an oak, I'm going to pick on a cedar tree right next to my mom's grave. It looks very nice the first 5 years. Or let's go 50 years down the road, or 75 years down the road. It's now this size, and mom's grave looks like this. Well, the idea was nice. It was, we thought it was a good idea, but later on it ruined my mother's grave. So trees and cemeteries do not mix. Limbs fall, break stones. Roots grow around stones. We call them tree-eating stones, or stone-eating trees. It's a lot more work for the person who wants to put them back together.
I thought you were going to get to stones on the ground already.
All right.
One's off the base. What do you do?
Gravity brings them down, right? We were in cemeteries the last 2 days, and I asked one of the persons I was with, I said, which way are these stones leaning? He looked and said, I don't know, they're just leaning. I said, most of them lean to the east, don't they? You know what? Because that's where the soft dirt was. That's where the soft dirt was. Well, and after a period of time, the dirt settled, and the stone is going to gradually go that way. You walk through a cemetery, and most of the taller stones are leaning to the east. And that is the reason why. We just have to bring them back.
Unless they got tree roots.
No, that's pushing them over. All right. This is my fault. When we douse, in most of our cemeteries, we are buried in the Christian manner. Whatever interpretation I use, we are buried in the Christian manner. This means we are facing toward the east. Our feet are, at the east side. Our head is at the west side. We are looking toward the east. And according to Scripture, this is where we'll be, it will come to Judges from the east. You can pick several passages in there. So they're buried east and west. Question back there. Dead or somebody? Okay, I'll go on. So that's the reason they sink toward the east, because you're up around the head and the stone will go toward the east.
Okay, towards the actual grave.
Yes, toward the actual grave. That's where the soft dirt is. Now when we douse, if we know that the cemetery scheme is buried east and west, we will walk north and south. And when we walk north and south, this is how we find the line of graves. Now, once we find a grave, we can tell where they're buried. We can tell their gender, and we can tell their approximate age when they passed away.
This is all down a stone, right?
This is not a stone. This is pure grass. Now, usually at this point, I have three or four people that walk out, and I understand. But what we do, we practice in a known cemetery where the answers are already there. And once we get our answers down pat, that's when we go out into an unknown area. Please don't start in an unknown area. You'll become very frustrated. But once you learn what the wires will do, they'll tell you a lot in a grassy area. Took a couple of groups out today, and there was probably a space of 40 or 50 feet, and we were just knocking off the people who were buried there with no marker at all. And it was revealing. It really was. Now, let's go back. So we find them by walking north and south. When the wires cross, there's somebody buried there.
Okay, what are you picking up when you walk across? And what are in the ground? What are you picking up? Are you picking off bones? Leftover buttons?
I have no idea, but I did see a photograph. I have no idea. But the dowsing practice has been going on for about 4,000 years. And in 4,000 years, no one has given an answer. Now, my friend Bob Walters and I, he's an educated man, and so am I, we have gone to some of the best minds at the University of Illinois, and about half the time we get thrown out of the place because they do not believe it, which is perfectly all right. But to give you an answer, I don't have the answer. If it helps me find a burial site, I'm going to use it.
We have to have certain.
Nope. Nope. My first experience was with a couple of coat hangers. I used copper rods there about 20 inches long. Total. 6 inches here, 14 inches here. This is number 4 copper wire right from a super lumber yard. All right? And you pay different prices for copper. No, I just go in and get 30, 40 feet of it and cut it off and use it.
Does the copper work better than the coat hanger?
No, no. The reason I use copper because it's heavier, and the wind affects it less than a lighter wire. I've seen wires this long, this part of it, 3 feet long, and that's very cumbersome to work. About 14 inches is just nice. I've used them a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. I like 14 inches. But you can make yours however you want to. Out of coat hangers, that's fine. But this probably costs at the most $3. And you never have to replace the batteries on it. Now, we'll go back. We've located the grave, all right? We've located it. Now, how do we tell the gender of it? There are several ways we can do it. And you check yourself. I'm going to stop here a minute. I didn't trust myself on something I found in one cemetery. There were 25 marked graves, 25 or 26 marked graves. When I finished marking it out with flags, there were 150. I said, Bob, come over here and check me. He went through, he lives 5 or 6 miles away. He came over, he said, John, you missed 1 baby out of 150 sites. I had 2 babies and he had 3. Well, if you miss a baby, that's not too bad, really, I guess, out of 150 hits. All right, now, gender. If it turns to the right, it's a male. If it turns to the left, it's a female. Stand right on top of the grave. And when it happens to you, it's amazing. Do we have anybody in the room that can pick me up? I'm looking for somebody. I don't see my buddy. There he is. The other day, I had our local sheriff came out. He was asking me another question about something else. I said, Bob, get out of the car. Oh, in fact, I did some grave work for him. That's what I did. When I came out. I said, has this ever happened to you? He said, no. I said, now walk down this area right here. I knew what was down there. And when the wires crossed for him, he said, holy mackerel. It's just that type of a revelation. But as far as telling the gender, if it turns to the right, it's a male. If it turns to the left, it's a female. That's when you're standing right on top of the grave. Now, there's other ways you can do it too. I'm going to do this low to begin, but I'll do it high. I balance it right on this first joint right here, like so. And I'm going to make it do it. If it turns clockwise, it's a male. If it turns counterclockwise, it's a female.
Now that one I need to cut.
Yeah. Or you can stand to, in line with the grave. If it turns toward the head, it's a female. If it turns toward the feet, it's a male. Now this is where it becomes fun, because pretend. Remember I said it points toward the head? It's a what? Good. You listen to me, don't you? That's good. It's a female. Now, the stone says Charlie's buried here.
Turned it the wrong way.
Pardon?
They put him the wrong way.
Thank you. They put Charlie in backwards in the grave, that's all. Yeah. You find this too.
Paul Bear's got tired.
I don't know the answer, but that's neat.
You guys get like 6 inches, you said.
Just a few inches off the, off the grass or the leaves or whatever you're working with the top of. And practice again in known areas where you have the answer already. Practice on the body side where the person was buried.